With around 2 years left until the Harry Potter HBO series is due to be released, I have put together my favourite top 5 characters that were in the books but excluded from the films, in the hope that we will finally get to see them on our screens. Without further ado, here is the first one. In 5th place, the Muggle Prime Minister. We only get to meet the Muggle Prime Minister in one chapter at the beginning of the Half-Blood Prince book. However, in this chapter we get to meet the Muggle Prime Minister and see him remembering his first meeting with Cornelius Fudge. We also get to see his introduction to the magical world. He reflects on every meeting that him and Fudge have had since then, which he dreads and does not enjoy. He reflects upon how every time Fudge appears to him, he brings stories of doom and gloom. Wants to tell him a dangerous mass murderer named Sirius Black has escaped and is a threat to Muggles too. Wants to tell him they are hosting the Triwizard Tournament and are therefore importing some dragons into the country. And then again in the Half-Blood Prince to tell him that Lord Voldemort has returned.
He's back.
The Prime Minister dreads these meetings and comes to dislike Fudge and the associated magical world. In the book, we only see all this in one chapter, mainly through the Prime Minister's reflections. It will be interesting to see if we only see it in the Half-Blood Prince season, or if we get to see the Prime Minister as a recurring character in every season. Either way, it will be fun to see the interactions between Fudge and the Prime Minister and get this insight into the Muggle world. In 4th place, Peeves the Poltergeist. Peeves is a poltergeist who lives in Hogwarts. He exists purely to cause chaos and plays pranks on the students and even teachers. Peeves always turns up in moments of chaos purely to add to the panic and annoy everyone. Consequently, he is a good source of comic relief in the story. I often think one issue with the films was that we lost an element of fun and comedy, specifically in the later films. These elements of light-heartedness are consistently present in the books though. One of the sources of this is Peeves. Hopefully we will get to see Peeves in the HBO Max series. He will be a fun recurring character that the writers and producers could have fun with, especially seeing as he is present in every single book. During the Chamber of Secrets, when most of the school suspected Harry of being the heir of Slytherin, Peeves flies around the corridor singing a song, "Oh Potter, you rotter, what have you done? You're killing off students, you think it's good fun." In a full circle moment at the very end of the Deathly Hallows, Peeves sings a victory song after Voldemort is finally defeated. "We did it, we bashed them, we Potter's the one, and Voldy's gone mouldy, so now let's have fun." During The Prisoner of Azkaban, Peeves delights in the panic surrounding Sirius Black, and appears in the moment after Sirius Black has broken into Hogwarts to try and get into the Gryffindor common room. The Fat Lady was attacked when Sirius tried to enter the common room, which we see in the film, but in the books, Peeves is flying around taunting everyone when they are panicking about the Fat Lady having disappeared. Only when Dumbledore turns up and demands Peeves tell him what happened does he stop, as Dumbledore seems to be the only teacher who intimidates Peeves. In the iconic scene where the Weasleys escape Hogwarts during Umbridge's tyrannical reign, they tell Peeves to give her hell from us, to which Peeves actually salutes them. He then proceeds to cause chaos in the school non-stop whilst Umbridge is headmistress. When Umbridge finally leaves the school, he chases her down the drive, whacking her with Professor McGonagall's walking stick. Whilst Peeves is never a central character in any plot, it will no doubt be entertaining to see him in the TV series and some of the ridiculous scenes that he is part of. In 3rd place, the Gaunts. The Gaunts were a family who were core to Voldemort's backstory, who were discussed in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Unfortunately, they weren't part of the films, but hopefully, with a full series to dedicate towards this book, there will be more time to dive into this element of the story. The family contained Marvolo, Merope and Morphin. Marvolo lived in a hovel in the village of Little Hangleton with his daughter Merope and his son Morphin. We discover in the book that Merope was actually Voldemort's mother. Dumbledore spends time with Harry in the Half-Blood Prince, showing him a collection of memories which all relate to Voldemort's past. One of these relates to a memory of a ministry wizard called Bob Ogden, who goes to visit the Gaunts as Marvolo's son Morphin, who is actually Voldemort's uncle, has been accused of attacking a local muggle. He enters the Gaunt home to try to serve Morphin with a court summons, but Morphin and Marvolo soon become violent and attack Bob Ogden. Bob Ogden soon returns with backup from the ministry, and both Marvolo and Morphin were arrested and sent to Azkaban. We get a brief glimpse of Marvolo's ring, which we later discover was turned into a Horcrux, and also Slytherin's locket, which was also turned into a Horcrux. We also get to see how Merope, Voldemort's mother, is mistreated and abused by her father Marvolo. It is revealed by Morphin that Merope fancies a local muggle named Tom Riddle, who is Voldemort's father, and both Morphin and Marvolo punish her for falling for a muggle. It is later explained by Dumbledore that Merope likely bamboozled Tom Riddle Sr. with a love potion shortly after this scene, and managed to get pregnant with Voldemort. Dumbledore also explains how by the time Marvolo returns from Azkaban, Merope has stolen Slytherin's locket and disappeared, presumably to go and give birth to her son, Tom Riddle Jr. Years later, Dumbledore goes to visit the orphanage where Voldemort grew up, which we see part of in the film, where the lady that works at the orphanage, Mrs. Cole, explains that Merope turned up shortly after giving birth to Voldemort and left him there with the sole request that he be named Tom Riddle, after his father. In a different memory, Dumbledore also shares with Harry, many years later, a teenage Voldemort goes to visit his uncle Morphin, by which time Marvolo has died, and learns from him that Merope ran away a long time ago with Slytherin's locket after a brief affair with a local muggle named Tom Riddle. Voldemort deduces from this that Tom Riddle Sr. must be his father. He goes to find his father living with his muggle grandparents, and kills them all. He then returns to his uncle Morphin and uses magic to make Morphin confess to the murders. He also steals Marvolo's ring off Morphin. Not only will these scenes all be great to visualise in the HBO Max series, but they are crucial in the telling of Voldemort's origin story, as they explain how Voldemort discovered the true identity of his mother, father, and how he got his hands on Marvolo's ring, which became a Horcrux. The murders of his father and Muggle grandparents were most likely his first murders in person, not counting Moaning Myrtle, who was killed by the Basilisk on his orders. In second place, Ludo Bagman. Ludo Bagman is a ministry wizard who is head of the department for magical games and sports. We are introduced to him in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. He is a former Quidditch player and is instrumental in organising both the Quidditch World Cup and the Triwizard Tournament. He commentates the Quidditch World Cup and the first task of the Triwizard Tournament. He also judges the tournament alongside Dumbledore, Madame Maxine, Igor Karkaroff and Barty Crouch Sr. He is criticised by Arthur and Percy Weasley as being a disorganised head of department, and specifically for not being concerned about the disappearance of Bertha Jorkins, a witch who works in his department. He seems a fun, bubbly and harmless character, but throughout the Goblet of Fire story, seeds of doubt are planted in our minds about his trustworthiness. He is therefore a perfect red herring, which will add to the mystery when we watch this play out in HBO series. We are being led to believe throughout the book that someone in or around Hogwarts is dangerous. Someone has put Harry's name in the Goblet of Fire. The Ministry Witch Bertha Jorkins has vanished, and Barty Crouch Sr. also disappears later in the book. Therefore we know something is going on, but we don't know who is behind it. Ludo Bagman is making constant efforts to help Harry in the various Triwizard tasks, which Harry doesn't really feel comfortable with, as he barely knows Ludo Bagman. Harry also stumbles upon a memory in Dumbledore's pensive. This memory is of a hearing in a ministry courtroom from many years ago, when Bagman was being questioned about being suspected of passing information to Death Eaters. We are therefore fed several pieces of information which make us suspect Ludo Bagman. However, at the end of the book, the true intentions behind Bagman trying to help Harry are revealed. It turns out that Bagman has racked up a significant gambling debt to a group of goblins. He had placed a big bet on Harry to win the Triwizard Tournament to try and pay them back. The goblins, however, said that as Harry jointly won the tournament with Cedric, he didn't win his bet. At this point, Bagman runs away. We don't hear anything again about Bagman being connected to Death Eaters. However, it will be exciting to see his character in the TV series, as it will add mystery before the truth is eventually uncovered. Both him, Igor Karkaroff, and potentially Snape are excellent red herrings in this book.
I have nothing to be scared of, Igor. Can you say the same?
And in first place, Winky the house elf. Winky was the house elf that belonged to the Crouch family. We are first introduced to her during the Quidditch World Cup, where Harry sees her sat next to a supposedly empty seat that she says she is saving for Barty Crouch Sr. Harry initially thought that she was Dobby, hence why he began the conversation in the first place. Barty Crouch Sr. never turns up to watch the match. Later on, when the trouble begins and the dark mark gets cast in the sky, several Ministry wizards cast stunning spells at Harry, Ron and Hermione, thinking that they had cast the dark mark. However, they soon discover Winky unconscious in some woods nearby. She is found with Harry's wand, which she had lost at the match. While the consensus is that Winky cannot have cast the dark mark, Barty Crouch Sr. is furious and sacks her. She then goes to work at Hogwarts in the kitchen alongside Dobby and many other house elves. Harry, Ron and Hermione go and visit the elves in the kitchen on more than one occasion throughout the story. Winky is depressed from being sacked and is distraught. They see her in distress and heavily drinking butterbeer. She is drunk or asleep when they go to see the elves in the kitchens. Not only was Winky not in the films, but we didn't get to see the house elves of Hogwarts at all. These scenes will be very entertaining to see in the TV series. At the end of the Goblet of Fire book, when Mad-Eye Moody is revealed to actually be Barty Crouch Jr. in disguise, Dumbledore forces him to drink Veritaserum, and we get to see the whole story of how Barty Crouch Jr. escaped Azkaban, where he had been imprisoned for the torture of Frank and Alice Longbottom, Neville's parents. Barty Crouch Sr.'s wife was dying from an illness, and she convinced Barty Crouch Sr. to let her swap places with Barty Crouch Jr. Both Barty Crouch Jr. and Barty Crouch Sr.'s wife take Polyjuice Potion and swap places when they go to visit Barty Crouch Jr. in Azkaban. Barty Crouch Sr.'s wife dies shortly after this in Azkaban, and everyone thinks it is Barty Crouch Jr. that has died. In reality, Barty Crouch Jr. was now living back at home with Winky and Barty Crouch Sr. Some time after this, Winky convinces Barty Crouch Sr. to let her take Barty Crouch Jr. to watch the Quidditch World Cup under an invisibility cloak. This is why Barty Crouch Sr. did not turn up to the match. His son was watching under the cloak, sat in his seat. He stole Harry Potter's wand from his pocket when Harry wasn't looking. Winky had cast a spell to bind Barty Crouch Jr. to her so that he wouldn't be able to escape. However, after the match, he was able to cast the Dark Mark using Harry's wand. When the Ministry wizards turned up and cast their stunning spells, it turned out that they had unintentionally stunned Winky and Barty Crouch Jr., who was still under his invisibility cloak. After Winky was sacked, Barty Crouch Sr. took Barty Crouch Jr. home. It turns out that after the end of the Prisoner of Azkaban story, on Peter Pettigrew's journey to go and find Voldemort, he bumps into a Ministry witch called Bertha Jorkins. He manages to overpower her and takes her with him to go and find Voldemort. Voldemort is able to extract information from her and learns that she recently went to Barty Crouch Sr. at his home, where she overheard him talking to Barty Crouch Jr., whom everyone thought was dead. Voldemort therefore learned that Barty Crouch Jr., who was of course a Death Eater, was still alive. Voldemort then kills Bertha Jorkins. Voldemort and Peter Pettigrew then turn up to Barty Crouch Sr.'s house and place him under the Imperius Curse. Then Voldemort and Barty Crouch Jr. hatch the plan to impersonate Mad-Eye Moody and get Harry Potter through the Triwizard Tournament. Therefore, Winky plays a core role in the story of Barty Crouch Jr. escaping Azkaban and eventually reuniting him with Voldemort, which sets in action the plan that brings Voldemort back to full body and full power. It will be exciting to see the plot play out in the HBO Max series, as it was somewhat limited in the film. It will also be fun to see the scenes where Harry, Ron and Hermione visit Winky, Dobby and the other elves in the Hogwarts kitchens. So there you have it. These were the top 5 characters I am most excited to see in the upcoming HBO series. I hope you enjoyed the video. This is a new channel and this was my first video, so if you enjoyed it, subscribe for more and let me know in the comments of the video what you think about my top 5 choices.